Hi class, my name is Megan Johnston, and for my descriptive epidemiology assignment, I decided to learn more about conjunctivitis, also known as pink eye. Do any of you remember this illness from childhood? Luckily, I never caught it, but it is very contagious. So let's learn a little bit together. So from what I've been learning in this course in general about epidemiology is that it is sort of an investigative type of science. So today we're going to ask a few questions to learn more about pink eye. We'll want to know who it affects, what it is, where the highest risk of infection is at globally, and why infections occur. So we're going to learn a little bit more about how this illness is spread and who it affects. So what is pink eye? According to the CDC, conjunctivitis occurs when the conjunctiva of the eye becomes inflamed due to an infection or an irritant. So the conjunctiva of the eye is this thin membrane in the corner of your eye that typically protects the eye from irritants or foreign bodies. So when this becomes inflamed, the blood vessels dilate in the eye, and this causes redness, itchiness, and swelling. Now, depending on the cause of the pink eye infection, there can also be a presence of a yellow-white discharge, a sticky kind of residue coming from the eye, and I would say that's probably the most common visual that I think of when I think of pink eye. So pink eye can affect either one or both eyes. It can start in one eye and spread to the other. It can also spread from person to person quite quickly as it's spread through direct contact. And according to a 2021 study of pink eye cases in the US, it is actually listed as the most common ocular condition that is diagnosed in US emergency departments. So I'm sure they see it almost every day. So why does pink eye occur? Pink eye can manifest in several ways. I tried to choose a photo that was the least yucky to share with you guys today. So here I have a visual representation of each type of pink eye infection. So down at the bottom is viral conjunctivitis or viral pink eye. And this is the most common form of infection. It accounts for about 80% of total cases. And it's spread the same way as the virus of the common cold is spread, and it can usually clear up on its own in about a week. Symptoms of viral pink eye are typically the red eyes, watery eyes, but there's no discharge present. Next is the bacterial pink eye, and this is the second most common to the viral. It is spread by bacteria infection, and this produces the yellow sticky discharge that's seen in this photo. And it's often accompanied by a feeling of itchiness or like there's a foreign body in the eye. And of course, antibiotics can be used to treat the bacterial condition. And then finally, this is probably the little lesser known, is there's actually something called allergen conjunctivitis. And this can be triggered by an allergic reaction to common irritants such as animal fur, smoke, or chemicals. And in this case, the eyes are typically puffy, itchy, and watery. And antihistamines can be used to treat allergic conjunctivitis. So according to the study that I mentioned earlier about pink eye cases in US emergency rooms, it was found that the infection follows something called a bimodal age distribution. So that means that there's typically a peak outbreak at 2 points in life. So according to this chart here, we can see that one of the peak outbreaks occurs between the ages of like 5 and 10, so where the star is right here. And another peak outbreak time is in the mid to late 20s, so right about here. The study itself said that the highest rate of pink eye per 100,000 people is actually in this age 7 or under. And the theory for that is that pink eye is a communal disease, often associated with primary school and childhood. So it's very easily spread between kids in the classroom. And then a theory for the second outbreak in the mid to late 20s is that this is typically when people are becoming parents, and so they often are exposed to germs from young kids. Another theory is that women are maybe in the workplace, in schools or daycares or places with children more often, and are more likely to be infected that way. So according to the study, there was actually a gap between the genders as well. As you can see here, women are in orange, and the cases of men with pink eye are in blue. And the orange has a little bit of a jump here in the mid 20s. And according to the study, the difference between the genders here was 36.2 people per 100,000 cases. So that is a pretty significant difference here. So where does pink eye occur? In a 2021 review of 155 global outbreaks of pink eye, it was found that the global epidemic of pink eye occurs across all ages, all regions, and all social economic groups. And this study specifically looked at data of pink eye outbreaks between 2012 and 2017. So here's a few figures that I wanted to share with you guys. So in figures B through D, so these three right here, these show the disease from the survey that I was talking about, and the survey respondents, their areas were divided by instead of listing each country, they were divided by something called global burden of disease regions. So here you can see we have Australia, Europe, Latin America. So they're kind of lumped together by certain regions. And of the survey, there was a total of 16 regions represented. The survey that I'm talking about noted the presence of pink eye in 15 out of the 16 total regions represented. 21% of the respondents also reported an increasing incidence in infectious conjunctivitis over the past decade. So that's down here in figure D. And it looks like the highest incidence of pink eye outbreak over the last decade was shown in Southern Latin America and Sub-Saharan Africa. If we jump back to figure C, we see the regions, the global burden of disease regions who reported pink eye outbreaks as an epidemic in their area. And it looks like 100% of the respondents of the survey classified pink eye as an epidemic in the Caribbean, in the Asia Pacific area, and in the Sub-Saharan African area. And then circling back to figure A, this just shows a breakdown of the type of pink eye infections by the global burden of disease regions that we mentioned. And it looks like the most prevalent type of pink eye infections are not specified etiology. That means they're not classified as either the allergic, the bacterial, or the viral type of pink eye. However, there is quite a few of the viral pink eyes. That would be the green right here. And it's a little hard to see on the map because they're kind of covered up and they're clumped in certain areas. But as you can see on figure B over here, we have a lot of the green, which is going to be our viral pink eye. So that is pretty common. Like I said, pretty much 80% of all cases is going to be that viral pink eye. All right, so we know the location that it occurs. It's pretty much spread out all over the globe, although there are outbreaks specific to certain areas, like we said, Latin America and Sub-Saharan Africa. But also the environment and where pink eye is found is typical to places with high rates of bacteria and viruses and in general. So typically we think of places like schools or daycares. These would be places with high traffic, close contact, and also having many shared surfaces like desks, doors, etc. Personal hygiene might not be as well kept at these places, so that's why we're thinking more of an outbreak towards school age kiddos versus like our workplace where we might wash our hands hopefully a little more often. Um, as for the time of year where pink eye is most prevalent, it was found in that global survey as well that pink eye is most prevalent in the spring, especially the bacterial form of pink eye. And the viral form of pink eye is most common in the winter. So that kind of goes hand in hand with cold and flu season as well. And then as for the social environment in which pink eye is most rampant, it is spread through direct contact of the ocular discharge from one person to another. So anywhere where hygiene is an issue or may not be, kept up with 100%. So places like schools, daycares, camps, there's definitely more of a risk of spreading from person to person. And also another group that is surprisingly surprisingly at risk for pink eye is contact lens wearers. And when I thought about this, it does make sense because if you're wearing contacts, you may be um, putting your fingers in your eyes, throughout the day to readjust or rubbing your eyes or things like that. So they are also susceptible to pink eye as well. All right, and we went over these. So the most reported outbreaks of pink eye across the globe lack in etiology. They're pretty much unspecified, or second to that, they can be viral. And then again, we said figure D shows the regions with increased incidence. That's Latin America and Sub-Saharan Africa. And then the next slide, we have a chart from the first study that I spoke of about the US Emergency Department study on pink eye. And we see that the distribution of pink eye is spread out all across the calendar year. But in figure A, we see a specific peak of outbreaks by age per season per 100,000 people during the months of December. So right about here, it goes up through May. And all of these pretty much follow a similar pattern, although you can see that the blue up top is going to be those young kids, preschool, daycare age, elementary age. They are going to be most at risk for this infection, but the other ages as well may have an increased chance in the spring and the winter here. Figure B to the right shows the type of pink eye per 100,000 people and how it's distributed across the year as well. And again, it looks like the unspecified conjunctivitis with no known cause is going to be the most common in the winter and spring months. Again, here December starts going up, and then the new year might go down a little bit, and then more here in the spring when allergies start coming into play. So that's going to be the unspecified etiology. And then again, we have viral here as well. And that's going to be the blue, the light blue. So to wrap up, pink eye is a highly contagious infection. It mostly presents in a viral form, viral infection form, and it typically affects school-age children and adult women who work in the childcare industry. The US reports that 6 million cases of pink eye occur annually, with a prevalence during the spring and winter months, along with cold and flu season. And a few ways to reduce your risk of catching pink eye is to practice proper hygiene, like hand washing. And something we all can probably do a little bit more of is try to avoid touching or rubbing our eyes. So pink eye is very, the spread of pink eye is very dependent on our hand cleanliness and how much we're touching our eyes and face. So by working on those two things, we can really cut down the outbreaks of pink eye. Thank you so much for listening. Here are a few of my references. I hope you learned a thing or two about pink eye.